Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Inside Investing, the show that helps you level up your financial knowledge and sharpen your investing skills. I'm your host, Caitlin Cormier. Many Canadians dream of finding their soulmate and building a life together, but there's an obstacle that sometimes gets in the way: money. Relationship surveys often suggest that finances are one of the biggest reasons why couples split. They might disagree on how to spend, save, and invest their money. And those usual stresses can get dialed up a notch or two when pursuing something called FIRE. That stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. The idea is to aggressively save and invest to build a nest egg quickly and retire early. There are bound to be many ups and downs along the way that can test a couple's love and teamwork. And we're going to hear how one couple has managed to keep their relationship strong through that journey. Joining us are Kristine and Gean, founders of Fire We Go on YouTube. Thanks for taking the time to share your story with us.
No problem. Thanks for
Thanks
the
for
invitation.
having us. Yeah, we're excited.
So, pursuing FIRE is a major financial commitment to say the least, yet you've nearly reached your goal in just 5 years together. So, how were you able to commit to that ambitious plan so quickly?
I think it's just it was a common goal that we had together, right? So that just gave us the drive. I mean, we didn't want to work anymore, so that goal to reach in retirement and be able to pursue our other dreams really kind of fueled our desire to get this done.
Amazing. Yeah, I guess that's pretty good motivation to get you going. And I also love how openly you share your journey to financial independence with like the whole world. So, what inspired you to launch a YouTube channel to open up about your financial life? That's pretty personal, really.
We always say that COVID is not a good thing, but that's
Yeah.
basically what inspired us to do and kind of start to build the channel. But basically, we wanted to share. I mean, we were back in 2019 or back in 2020 when we were discussing about our financial situation, and we thought, what are some of the things that we can do to improve, our financial situation? And then we thought, what else can we do?
Yeah, and there just wasn't a lot of Canadian content out
Yeah.
there, so we didn't really have there's a lot in the US, right? A lot of modeling that you can look at in the United States, but there didn't seem
Yeah.
to be quite as much in Canada. And we thought, well, hey, we're starting this thing from the beginning. So for our own benefit down the road, as well as maybe anybody else who may want to take a look,
Yeah.
let's put it out there and show people that it's possible with any of the pitfalls along the way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's way less content, and really there's a big difference between Canada and the US when it comes to investing in really everything. So yeah, that's a very good point and very generous of you to share all the ups and downs. Okay, so I'm really excited to hear about how you've managed to keep your relationship going so strong through the ups and downs of your investing journey. But before we get into our conversation, I have a trivia question for our audience. So, according to a survey by TD in 2021, what percentage of Canadians admitted to keeping financial secrets from their partner? Okay, so you guys think about that, and we'll see if you guys are right at the end of today's session. All right, let's get into our conversation. So first, let's hear a little bit more about what early retirement might look like for both of you. So how do you plan to spend your time? How much money do you think you'll need each year to support your lifestyle?
That's a great question. I think that most of all is we love to travel, we love to experience things outside Canada. I believe that is the main motivator that we have, which is we cannot buy time. So what we are trying to do is buying time back. And by time, buying time back, we will be able to do all of those things. Usually when we go on those trips, we can only stay there for 1 or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
By the time that we are getting excited, it's
Yeah.
time to come back. And then we thought, I don't think that is going to work.
Yeah, it was really just, I don't know, we wanted to be able to experience the world while we were still young enough to be able to do a lot of the things that we enjoy, right? So we thought, let's go for it. Let's do this while we were young and see what's out there for us.
Amazing. And so how much, so you've obviously budgeted this or you have an idea. So how much do you think it'll take for you guys to need each year in order to kind of sustain that travel lifestyle?
I think a lot's going to depend on where we are. The whole premise behind our retirement is going to be slow travel and geo arbitrage. So we do have a place in Brazil. So Jean's from Brazil. So we do have a place there that we can live at for, extended periods of time if need be. But the budget itself is really going to depend a lot on the countries in which we're traveling at the time. We just released a new budget, so we think it'll probably realistically cost us about 60,000 Canadian dollars for the year of travel, whether we spend a few months here every year and then ultimately different places around the world or in Brazil or here, just depends on where we are, but 60,000 is the budget.
By not having to travel to every other country, like within 1 or a month, the longer that we stay on that country, so the better for us, because
the cheaper it is, right? You get better deals on your accommodations. You're not putting money out for flights here and there all the time, right? So by spending 2, 3, 4 months in a area of the world, you're really saving on those big ticket items.
A little bit of wiggle room in there, sounds like. All right, now there are many ways to invest to reach retirement. So what are your approaches to building up your nest egg and creating streams of income that you'll need to live off of?
Diversification is one of the things that we always wanted to strive for, right? Kristine mentioned a few minutes ago the condo that we had in Brazil. So we were planning to use the condo when it's cold here in Canada, so we can go to south and then enjoy that. But other than real estate, we also have dividend income that comes that we are really passionate about, and then we share quite a lot. But not only dividends, we also have investments on ETFs and income-oriented funds. So basically, being able to diversify within those streams of income, we will be able to achieve that.
Yeah, and I'll also be receiving a small pension down the road, and then as Canadians, ultimately later on in life, we'll also be receiving CPP, OAS, things like that. We also rent part of our house, so that's another stream of income that'll help cover carrying costs here in Canada and stuff like that. So we have a lot of different little streams coming in right now, but they're kind of all over the place.
So your goal was initially to retire in 2028, but you're on track to reach your goal 4 years earlier. We're not talking very much time here. That's unbelievable. How were you able to accelerate your progress so much?
We live well below our means. We're lucky that we have 2 very good jobs. We don't have children, so that obviously helps. It's just the 2 of us that we have to worry about. But we do have over a 50% savings rate for our income. So we're able to just live off of my income, and everything that Gean brings in through his corporate, like his business, we put into savings.
Just a quick reminder to our audience, if you're interested in hearing another couple's approach to pursuing early retirement, check out the webinar, Why We Use High Yield Income Strategies in Early Retirement. It's available in the Learning Center on Webroker and TD's YouTube channel. Okay, so some skeptics of the FIRE movement claim that it isn't viable given the rising cost of living, rising interest rates, and inflation, and the fact that Canadians are generally living longer. So what gives you confidence that your early retirement will be sustainable? And I mean, really interesting when we think about like how long you live, like have you factored that into your plan and those sorts of things?
I wish we knew how long we were going to live. That would really make this whole thing a lot easier. But we don't, right? We can prepare to live as for a long period of time. Whether we reach that age or not, we don't know. Both of us lost parents quite early, so you plan, right? You plan all these great things for your retirement, whether you make it or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we're trying to ensure that it's going to be sustainable with us through our investing. So we choose dividend stocks that are very resilient to inflation, resilient to recession. They have a great track record of consistently increasing their dividends, sort of on pace with inflation to help fight that.
And no matter no matter how many times we try to plan, I'm a planner myself. I'm already thinking about what I'm gonna do next day, on the next year, 5 years from now, and it's a burden. And then Kristine is teaching me on how we can manage that, which is sometimes difficult, right? But having the diversification and not investing in only one thing, that also something that we try to do. and hopefully, we'll be able to
No, we will be.
reach that. Okay.
We're going to be successful. Because going back to work, not going to happen.
So some couples might have a rough idea of how much they'd like to spend in retirement, but aren't really sure how much they should save to help them reach that goal. So let's take a moment to hop into Webbroker to check out our retirement planning tool that can offer some perspective. Let's take a look at the Goals tool. This is a tool we can use for projecting our retirement and knowing how much money we're going to need to save in order to meet our retirement goals. I'm going to go ahead and fill in some information here already about our current age, our current income, and when we'd like to retire. I get to choose here how much income I would need during retirement, and let's go ahead and assume 60% of my current income would be sufficient for me. And then finally, I'm going to go ahead and name my goal. I'm going to click Save and Continue. Next, I have an investor profile that I can choose. If you're not familiar with what different investor profiles are, go ahead and watch the video and do some comparisons here to pick which one is most appropriate for you and your goal. Today, I'm going to go ahead and choose the moderate investor for this projection. Next, I'm going to go ahead and choose any accounts that I have that I'm going to use towards my goal. And I'm going to put any additional funds that I have saved that I want to use towards this goal. Now, for this purposes, I'm going to put $75,000 since my account balance is 0. I'm also going to input how much money I'm going to be contributing on a regular basis into this account. So let's say $750 biweekly. Let's click Save and Continue. This is my projection of what my retirement savings will be, and this is the goal that I need to reach in order to have the retirement I'm looking for. So on the left-hand side, I can see I can make some changes. So I can change my retirement age, I can reduce how much income I need in retirement, or I can increase my contribution amount. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments here. Let's go ahead and increase it by $100 biweekly. Maybe we'll go ahead and reduce our retirement income, and then we're going to click recalculate. So we can see it's made a bit of a difference here. Our goal has decreased and our projection has increased, but it's not enough to bring us to the goal. Let's go ahead and click view assumptions. We're going to scroll towards the bottom. Perhaps in retirement, I'm going to have additional income in the form of rent, or I plan on working. So I can actually go ahead and input that I plan on earning $10,000 per year outside of my investments. And then it will actually recalculate to show me whether that will help me get on track for my goal. So as you can see here, it's almost the exact amount between my goal and projection. My projection is just slightly over my goal. So that actually brings me completely on track. Once I click Start with this plan, I'll get to my goals dashboard where I can see whether my goal needs attention, what my target is, what my projection is, and my portfolio value. So I can make changes to this at any point just by clicking View Details. And since we're a little close, let's go ahead and increase and recalculate so we get a little bit more over our goal. And this is a really easy way for you to find out how much you need to save for retirement, as well as make any changes that you might need along the way and keep track and make sure you're going to attain your goal. All right, let's hear more about how you save and invest as a team. So it sounds like you guys balance each other out really well. You've got kind of the more conservative and the more in the moment. So some couples like to keep their money separate from each other, while others might pool it all together. What is your approach?
The secret, I think, is transparency, right? So it ties back to that. And even though we do have separate accounts, Kristine has her account, I have my account, but it doesn't mean that it's a secret for both of us. If she wanted to look and do something, sorry.
Yeah, no, the accounts, we flow the money back and forth.
Yeah.
It's not Gean's money, it's not my money, it's our money. Even though the accounts are separate right now, it's only because we're lazy and we haven't done everything into a joint account. But it's not, we don't keep our accounts separate. We don't keep our finances separate. Everything is done jointly. We pay all the bills jointly. The mortgage gets paid jointly. Everything is together.
How have you been able to avoid conflict with the separate accounts and avoid the temptation to keep financial secrets that can sink other couples?
I want to go and buy something. I just go and buy it, right? Like if I want a new outfit, then I'll go out and buy it. And it's just not a question. If Gean wants to go buy a new techie gadget for something, you go for it, right? It's just we both know that at the end of this, we want to be in a certain place. So it does that new outfit or the new techie gadget, is it going to benefit us down the road? Then by all means, generally we'll go and buy it. But if it doesn't, more or less, we're not doing it.
Okay, that seems completely reasonable as long as you're both good with that. But some couples do struggle to have that money talk. And Kristine, you've joked that it wasn't easy for you at first to have that conversation. So what made it tough for you and how were you able to work through it together?
It reached a point where Gean and I were ready to move in together, and we decided that our lives were going to be led together moving forward. And it was really important that we sit down and discuss where we were each financially. And it was a little difficult for me because I came into the relationship carrying a significant amount of consumer debt that maybe I hadn't made the smartest choices earlier in my life, and it just kept following me, and it seemed to be this hole that I couldn't dig myself out of. So those conversations are a little hard, right? It's hard to sit down and open up your, I don't want to say your sins, but some of your past mistakes to the person that you're hoping to spend your life with, and hoping that they're not going to look down on that or see it as a negative and kind of help you work through it, I guess, was what I was hoping for, which happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was tough though. It wasn't an easy conversation, that's for sure.
So what did Gean do to help you tackle that in a constructive way?
Well, we sat down and we looked at it, right? And by tracking where our money was going, we were able to identify a lot of areas where I was spending needlessly that I wasn't even aware of. I was overspending and whatnot. So we were able to dial that back. So he really helped me there. But then he also helped me with, he had a lower interest rate on his line of credit. So we started transferring debt from a higher interest rate to a lower interest rate. We just kept paying that off as aggressively as possible. So all the credit cards, if there was a few balances, those went on to the line of credit because that was lower. Then the higher line of credit interest went to the lower line of credit interest. And we just tried to really use both of our accounts to our benefit, right? And he was really instrumental in encouraging me to keep going, and that it wasn't going to be the end of the relationship, and it wasn't, we were going to get through it. And we did, actually, a lot quicker than I think both of us thought we would. We were able to pay off the debt.
All right, Gean. So we've gone through Kristine's kind of coming into the relationship with something. Tell us something that you came into the relationship with that Kristine actually helped you out. Maybe something that that wasn't as great as a financial habit.
I was investing quite heavily on day trading and losing money. I was making a little bit, but I was, losing quite a lot. And when I was talking to Kristine about that, and she says, well, we are discussing about what is a stop loss. Why don't you have a stop loss? And I thought, I don't know. I was always expecting for the stock to go back up. And she said, no more day trading without a stop loss. So that's when we started to do it. So having a stop loss, it was one thing. But even before that, we were not being trading as much as we could because I was losing quite a lot of money.
I find that so funny because we think of you as the more conservative in the couple, yet you were doing the risky trading behavior.
Maybe I was not telling her about the trades.
No, he was trading very good stocks, but yeah, he didn't have that stop loss. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't even know what a stop loss was, let's be honest. And then I found out, and I'm like, now this is something we need to implement.
So interestingly, you say you don't actually have a monthly budget, which might come as a surprise to some of our viewers. How are you able to invest so aggressively and save 50% without adhering to a strict budget?
It's just make it automated as much as possible. So for some of the accounts that we have investments, we don't even see the money. We get our, salary, and it goes to the account and it flows to the broker, and then from there we just let it go. So we don't need to stress about it anymore. It's part of what we need to do.
Yeah. And we don't budget because honestly, we're not really good with budgets, but we do track everything that we make or we spend, right? So everything we spend goes on to credit cards, which get paid off in full every month 100%,
now. 110%.
They didn't before I met him, but now they do. But we track everything. And then once a month we sit down and we kind of make it like a check-in, like our financial check-in night. And we sit down, we go through all of our spending, we log it all in, we see where we are. And if we've overspent in one category one month, then the next month we just dial it back a little bit. So I think it's easy that when you don't have a budget, it's still easy to stay on track for saving as long as you both have the same goals. And if your end goal is the same, then you're both working towards that anyways on your daily spend, and it's just a little bit easier. But we track everything. We just don't budget.
Okay, so just kind of keeping in mind when you're going to have an expense, like, I know what my timeline is. I'm going to see this on the budget next month, or on the cost expenses next month. Do I want to see it or not, kind of thing. Yeah. And I want to dive into something you just said too. One of the habits that you've discussed on your YouTube channel are the money dates that you have each month. So how do those work, and why do you feel they're so important to your plan?
Let's face it, tracking and budgeting and all this kind of stuff isn't necessarily the most fun thing in the world. But if we make it a special night for the two of us, then it's a little easier.
Yes, yes. And another point is, even though when we start, it was not easy at the beginning, right? So for those of you who are starting and planning to do this right now, it will be difficult in the beginning and having these conversations, and it was the case with us. However, nowadays we just make it part of our daily lives. We talk about, if we are too boring and talk about money, we talk about those things on a regular basis. But for us, we already changed our mindset, and for us, it's something that we do it, and it's a normal. You know.
It's almost like a game. How can we do better next month? How can we save some more money so we can get to our goal even faster, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a game at this point. So it's an enjoyable evening. So it's something we look forward to. So
But even it's funny because even though we talk about saving, 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 but at the same time we also do the opposite once we are, going through this discussion, which is, you know what, maybe we were able to save that X amount of money. Why don't we go and travel and do something else? So that's the balance that we need to find. Yes, we talk about save, 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 but at the same time, we gotta live the moment. We gotta go and being respectful about where we are and what we wanted to achieve. And we need to give, maybe that's a good thing. We need to give a pat on our back, and sometimes I'm very difficult in doing that myself. Because I'm always thinking about what is next, what is next, what is next, and Kristine comes and say, "But what about now?" So
Well, you bring up such an important part too, because there's the financial the financial, I say relationship, but the financial kind of progress, but there's also your relationship together. So being able to enjoy going on trips and celebrate all of, different, you may not look at them as sacrifices, but the things that you're giving up or the choices that you're making.
There's a really good book that talks a lot about memory dividends, right? So we talk a lot about our stock dividends and stuff like that, but really what we want to accomplish is memory dividends. So we want those memories that we can look back on, once we reach that point where we can't travel or do a lot of stuff, or God forbid, one of us passes away or stuff like that. At least we have the memories that we've made. We want to make sure we're also investing into our memories as much as the stock market and our finances.
Okay, disagreements about finances are bound to crop up in any relationship. Can you share a time that you had a big fight about money and how it worked out?
We do disagree. Sometimes we'll disagree on what we would like to invest in, but I think that's part of the key of making the whole conversation work, is that it's not something that should be fought about. If you have differing opinions on something, then you sit down and you discuss why somebody wants to do one thing or somebody's opposed to another, and then try and find a compromise. I particularly wanted to invest in a certain stock once, and Gean was adamant that it was not happening. And that's just, if somebody's completely opposed to it, it doesn't happen. But if we can kind of come to terms and come to a middle ground somewhere and make a compromise, then we do that instead.
As long as you are able to do this and understand the reason behind, and no blames or anything like that, is just saying, here's what I think. You have your point, I have mine. Maybe I'm going to compromise a little bit on this time, but not to the extent that we wanted to do. And next time it will be my turn. And that's how we try to balance.
Yeah. Right? And I mean, there's going to be times where somebody spends money on something that, maybe the other person's not extremely happy about, but the money's gone. It's been spent. So talk about why it wasn't the best option or the best choice, and then move forward, and don't, make sure that in the future we don't repeat the same mistakes, right? But we try not to fight about money because it can be such an emotional topic.
And Gean, there was one particular category of expenses that happen on a regular basis that you had a bit of an issue with as well. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is really fair to say, and I'm even ashamed of doing this, but it happened, right? Which is usually grocery, right? So Christine is the one who likes to go into the grocery and everything, and I was, sitting on my desk waiting for Christine, and she comes back with the grocery. And on the grocery, by the time that we go at the end of the month, when we talk about money, I was looking at the numbers, the budget for grocery, they were quite high. And I was saying, what's going on? Why is that amount so high? And she said, well, that's the reality. She said, well, if you think that this is not the case, why don't you go and do the budget yourself? Oh, sorry, and go to the grocery and do the grocery yourself. And I decided to do this. And guess what? When I came back home, I was even ashamed because I spent more than she did. And I said, oh, okay, I'll be quiet. I don't have to say anything else, right?
Yeah. You now realize these groceries are expensive.
Yeah, I do realize.
Yeah, I feel like any grocery shoppers in our audience can feel that pain as well right now.
I know, no matter how hard you try, the bill just keeps getting bigger.
It is, it is. But at the end of the day, it's just being, putting yourself in someone else's shoes so you know what the person is going through. It was easy for me to stay at my place and let Christian go and do the groceries. It's not that I don't like doing the groceries, but she does more than I do. And I let her do this. But at the same time, I was basically complaining about something that I was not with her, even though she told me quite a few times. Until I think that she got tired of me. She said, go and do yourself.
All right, I want to focus on some of your investing habits that have helped you reach your early retirement dreams. So sometimes couples have different risk tolerances, which can make it difficult to choose investments that suit both of their preferences. Is this an issue that you guys encounter? And if so, how do you navigate it?
Sometimes I get sucked into that juicy yield, or, it seems like a really good investment, but it's brand new, something like that hasn't really been tested over a course of time. And Jean will quite often be the more conservative one in the relationship, and he's a little more hesitant to jump into those things. But again, that's where that conversation comes in. I'll give my point of view as to why I believe that X stock is appropriate for our portfolio in this instance. Mm-hmm. And Jean will either tell me why he's for it or against it. And together we kind of come to a compromise. So maybe if it's something he's not so keen on, we'll put some money into it, like a portion of money into it, see how that does over a period of time, and reevaluate every few months. If it's doing okay, if we're gaining confidence, maybe we put more money into it, right? But I definitely tend to be the more aggressive, like risk taker. But yeah, he's definitely more conservative.
So investing decisions don't always work out in our favor. You're kind of talking about some of those hot topic type of investments right there. So can you tell us about a time that you had to overcome a particularly painful loss and how you worked as a team to deal with it?
When we started putting more money, into our investments, we saw, at the beginning of COVID, everything was perfect. The money was growing and we were excited, and then we got excited, and then we thought, oh, this is too easy, let's go and put more money. So that's when we decided to invest in a specific stock that we saw kind of growing, and then
we got into day trading.
Yeah, we got into day trading, and then we saw the money that we had invested kind of going down, down, and down. I had invested on the same stock as Christine did, and both of us were looking at each other and saying, oh, maybe today is the day that the stock is going to go back up. It's going to go back up.
Kept going down.
Kept going down, down, and down until it was to the point that it was affecting our relationship. The work that, going back to work and thinking about this. Mm-hmm. And it was not good, right?
Yeah, I was at the point where I couldn't even sleep. I was so stressed out about this particular investment, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a couple of months. This was going on for, I would say, 4 or 5 months, back and forth. We're going to keep it. It's going to go back up. And it would go back up a little bit, and we'd get hopeful, and then it would crash again. But we decided as a couple at one point that it was time to cut our loss. And it was a big loss. And we're, it's still something that hurts to this day, but it was substantial. It was over $100,000.
Yeah.
but it let us sleep at night. After that, we got out, we took the money that was still there and we put it back into our safer investments, and we just said this is our learning opportunity, and we're not going to get greedy or try to make some fast money again. We're just going to stick to our plan because we deviated from it.
I'm kind of grateful to have that loss while you're still able to recover, while you're still working and being able to maybe spend more time and do something else, rather than wait until we are retired, we are not working anymore, and have like this big loss, right? So
yeah, it was a very large learning opportunity for us, and but it wasn't easy. It was a decision that had to be made together. But when one person wasn't ready to pull the trigger and sell at that loss, then it wasn't being sold. Both of us needed to be on the same page, and we just one day we looked at each other and we're like, can't do it anymore. Let's just sell it, and it was gone.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun experience, but like you said, it's better to happen now than when you're retired and all of a sudden take a chunk out of the nest egg. And it just reminds me, time in the market always beats timing the market. So there we go.
Yeah, we thought we were smarter, and we
are
weren't.
not. No.
I think the key things that I hear from you guys, like open transparency, honesty, and then also like being each other's cheerleaders and being there for each other, so that if somebody, you're not holding contempt against one another if something goes wrong, except for groceries. But other than groceries, there's no contempt between you for those decisions. You're just you're on the same team and you're working towards the same goal. So yeah, I love that. That's great. I think that definitely, I can understand why you guys work well as a team.
Yeah, I mean, this is the person that you want to be with for your life, right? So if you don't have those aspects in your relationship, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of contention. It's just not going to be a smooth ride. So we want to have a smooth ride. So there's no point in holding anything back and not telling each other everything.
All right, Kristine and Gean, we're going to have to leave our conversation there. Thanks for giving us a glimpse into your financial life and some of the ways that you keep your relationship strong no matter what the markets throw at you. Now, before we wrap up, let's reveal the answer to our trivia question. So I hope you have your answers ready. As a refresher, the question was, according to a survey by TD in 2021, what percentage of Canadians admitted to keeping financial secrets from their partner? And the answer is just 8% of Canadians surveyed said they keep financial secrets from their partner. Having a secret bank account and holding significant credit card debt were two of the most common financial secrets. What do you think? Does that sound reasonable?
I'm actually surprised. I thought more people would have been keeping the secrets. I'm glad they're not, but I thought that it would be a higher number.
I kind of did too. I thought maybe they're not answering honestly either.
No, I'm glad they're not.
That gives me hope that people are sharing, just like you when you come into a relationship, being open and honest so that you can kind of be a team and move on.
Yeah, that's the basis of any good relationship, right? Good communication. So finances are just another aspect of that communication.
And we keep learning as we go, right? I don't know everything. She doesn't know everything. And we just try to find ways to learn together and to make mistakes together and to grow as a couple together. So that's what I try to do.
Very good. All right. Thank you again for joining us, Kristine and Gean. Those in our audience, make sure to register for our upcoming live webinars and check out our library of on-demand content available in the Learning Center and on our YouTube page. We'll see y'all next time.